Well, welcome everybody. Like Scott said, well, thank you for the introduction. My name is Alan. I've been a member since July of 2015. Can't believe next year will be 10 years. That's insane. Can't believe it, but very much the same as a lot of folks in this room. And I see a friendly face that I have not seen in a while, so that's good. I sat in those same chairs in July of 15, and I guess something clicked and said, hey, that same weekend, I came and sold Dell at a 2-day, and one thing led to another, and lots of things have changed, and it's been a crazy journey. But anyway,
one of the things that changed is in the middle of that picture.
Yeah, had a baby girl. She's 2 years old now. She's at home with Melissa right now. Probably, what time is it? Probably taking a bath, most likely. That's usually my role, but I'm here tonight with all of y'all. But anyway, so a little bit about my background. I'm a CPA, about 11 years or so of prior experience at Big Four accounting firms and some boutique, smaller consulting firms for quite a bit. At that point, joined Lifestyles in 15 and then retired from corporate America about 3 years later in 2018. Like Scott said, currently operate 5 properties kind of throughout Texas. The one we're talking about today is here in Houston. I have one in Baytown, have one in Amarillo, Huntsville, and Bryan and College Station.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got to that 1,000 units. So we have kind of 3 roles that happen inside our multifamily program. Some of you come in and you want to buy your own deal. We call you independent real estate owners, IROs, and you can do that. Take in friends and families, whatever, buy your own deal. Second thing is you can be a lead like Alan is, and you can go out, find the deal, and then you syndicate it. What does that mean? Well, that's our third role, and that's our passive investors. Some of you retired, don't want to do this. You just want to figure out how to make money off of it. In some cases, I have my largest investor is actually a doctor. I've talked to him about the fact that he's made more money than he ever could have dreamed of. And he said, but I can't stop being a doctor. It's what he loves. It's what he does. So he wants to be a passive investor, and he just wants to screen the deal, screen the lead, and invest in deals along the way. So you started out, you are actually going to be an IRO.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we first started out, to be quite honest, we were going to go single family and just buy. That was our goal coming into Lifestyles. We were just going to, buy a few single families, maybe 1 or 2 a year, and kind of start building that portfolio, and hope to retire early from buying houses. And then once we got to the 2-day and the second day, we started talking about multifamily. It's like, whoa, okay, this makes a lot more sense going this way for me. Doesn't make, that same decision does not mean it makes sense for you or someone else. But for me, it made a lot of sense. I was relatively young at the point, and I had a big runway, and knew this could be something that could be potentially very beneficial for myself and my family. So that's kind of what I decided to do. And, just one thing at a time. It's one foot another, right? You don't go and overnight snap and wake up with 35 employees and 1,000 units to worry about. It's one step at a time.
And you did. You bought, what was it, about 50 units or so with one other person, another member?
Yeah, first property was just another member that I met at the 2-day, right? He and I sat next to each other with our wives, and we were kind of hit it off. We're about the same age, and hey, one thing led to another. It's like, okay, you want to partner up on a deal? It's like, okay, yep. Bought 54 units down in Texas City, and kind of started the journey then. So.
Okay, and then you also invest in some deals that you're not the lead on, right?
Yeah, currently I think it's about the same number of units, maybe a little bit more as a passive investor. Also a key principle of some of those deals, but Chris, we'll talk about that more this weekend.
So there's a role for everybody, I guess, is where I'm going with that. All right, so why'd you join Lifestyles?
Yeah, I'll cover that a little bit, but to create some additional streams of income, I knew, saving your way to retirement is, slow and steady, but I wanted it to be a little bit faster, right? So create additional streams of income, put assets to work, and really grow that net worth. At the time I joined, our net worth was not super high. It really wasn't. And just kind of, I was a little bit jaded from my job, to be quite honest. I think a lot of folks can probably, share the same feeling. You're like, going to the job was not very much fun. I liked my job. I was good at my job. but I also was tied to a job. So having freedom is all what it's about.
All right. So let's talk about Country Club Place. So we have properties in Houston, and they kind of cycle through. When you've been around for 17 years or however long I've been here now, you see them turn over multiple times. In this particular property, I remember my son was starting kindergarten, and right in front of this property is a school where they were doing testing to see what program he was going to be in, whether he was advanced or remedial. And while he was taking his test, a broker had told me about this property. And so I went behind and I drove the property. And I'm not kidding you, when I was trying to avoid the potholes in the parking lot, I was looking through windows that didn't exist, and I was seeing sunlight through the roof on the second floor. This thing was in bad, bad shape. Now, somebody ended up buying it. I said it was too much work to take over at that point. Somebody else took it. They did a certain amount of it, and then you got it after them, right?
Yeah, so another owner had bought this deal from the status that Scott was describing, and kind of having started to know the other owner. He's another fairly successful multifamily guy here in Houston, not part of Lifestyles, but just being in the business, you kind of get to know these people. And I started talking to him about this deal. I was like, yeah, you can't believe what we had to do on that deal. So it's 240 units. It was built in 1972. We bought this deal in June of 2019. I bought it for about $75,000 a door. You can read the stats on here: $6.3 million out of pocket, out of my pocket, right? So syndicated the deal amongst the group here.
So how many investors do you think you have?
On that deal, about 110. So 110 individual families or individual people kind of pooled money together. Average investment on that deal, I'm trying to go by recollection, maybe about 80-ish.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I mean, just if you average that out, it's a little over 50,000 for the average. But
yeah, something in that range, yeah.
And what do you think your lowest investor was, smallest amount?
25.
25,000.
I think on this deal, 25.
All right. So now we're talking about the ballpark where, do I want to take that 25,000 and do a single family on my own, or do I want to invest it passively in multifamily? And that's where we need to figure out what's best for you or what you want to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Is I also, well, mainly my wife, did also have a single family rental, and that was all. We were kind of joking about it. I was like, man, that one single family rental is a lot of work because I have employees at this property. I don't go to this property every day, but on that single family rental, she was doing all the work, right? And Adam was up here as well, and someone before. Yeah, I mean, that's good. It makes a lot of money. But again, it takes work, right? This property, I have a manager. I have 2 leasing people in the office. I have 4 maintenance, and they take care of it. I handle the high-level operations. I manage them, but I don't do any work on the property, right? So.
All right. And I don't know if you covered it, but $1,150,000 that you had in rehab.
Yeah,
so
rehab budget
about $5,000 a door, something like that. Okay.
So we'll go through some stats on here. This is pretty self-explanatory, but income just under 2.9 million. This is annualized. This is for the year. Expenses about 1.36. Monthly cash flow about 26 to 28,000, kind of in that range. Obviously fluctuates. The net operating income on that property is 1.2 or 1.5 million. Cash on cash return will be 5.2% on average, $1.5 million or so dollars distributed out to the 110 odd passive investors. And our current valuation is just under 24 million. Okay.
And what'd you pay for it?
What did I pay for it? Let's go back one slide. Make sure I get that right.
So it's 75.
What was it?
Yeah, it's 75 a door. You didn't put the number on there, but that's about 17 million.
17 or so. Yeah, it's been a while, I guess. I haven't.
All right, so from 17 million to 23.5 million. Pretty good, huh? And this is in 5 years?
Yeah, a little over 5 years.
Okay. So, and from an equity standpoint, that's roughly doubling the equity plus the distributions that you've made to date.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also to Scott's point, there's always bumps in the road. So I just want to make sure everybody understands there's always going to be bumps in the road. We bought this in July or June of 2019. We had just completed our exterior renovations. All that stuff was done. And what happened in 2020?
Right, COVID,
so
March.
Personally, on our management company, we also changed property management softwares and we launched it in February of 2020. I was learning the property management software, and then COVID happened in March, right? So we went through all that. It was a tough time. I'm not going to lie about it. It was a tough time. You have to overcome all these challenges. And so those are the things that we all have to deal with. Part of this industry is you never give up. You have to have grit. You never give up. You just, deal with deal with obstacles as they come and move forward and do the best you can, right?
And so some of us like staying up late and working through these problems and getting to the other side, and some people like to get sleep and be passive and just get a distribution check.
Yeah, no, it's true, right? So the team in March and April of 2020 were all scared. We were all scared, and now we're kind of laughed back and we're like, why are we all that scared? But me being the leader of our team, who does it ultimately come back to, right? I have to lead the team. So I was the one, got in an office, sat at the desk, and dealt with everything that came through. I was literally the only person in that office for about a month and a half.
And we can laugh about it now, but as much as we talk about what Lifestyles is and the support and the mentors and the consultants and everything that we have, a big piece of this is the peer-to-peer and those of us that operate these complexes. Before this happened tonight, we just spent 2 hours in this room sharing ideas and helping each other work through these types of issues. Well, when this happened, we couldn't get together in the room. We had to learn how to spell Zoom and how to do virtual meetings so that we could continue to get through this kind of stuff together. But it all worked out. All right, so we've got our before and afters of the property.
Let's take a look at the pictures. So the pictures, tell a lot of, the before was this like beige-ish color. A lot of apartment complexes are this color. We wanted to make it a little bit more vibrant, stand a little bit. So we did the whole exterior brick paint, all the fascia and everything like that, painted the doors blue, kind of freshen it up. We also installed the turf courtyard there right by the office. So when you're sitting in the office, trying to lease an apartment or thinking about leasing an apartment, that nice courtyard's in front of you.
Are those all new double pane windows I'm looking at too?
They are, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, on 4 of our 5 buildings we put double paned. The one existing building is the one that Scott was referring to earlier, where the ceiling was not there, where the roof was not there. That building got all torn down. It's basically more or less brand new. So,
all right. So again, more numbers.
More numbers. Who's a numbers person out there? Anyone? A real numbers person? Okay, perfect. So this is for you. So currently, we went through these numbers. So cash on cash return. This is 6.5% is before the principal payment it kicks in, right? So we had on this deal of a 5-year period where it was only interest only, and now the principal is kicking in, so it'll drop a little bit less. So next year it'll be 6% or so.
All right, and the next year numbers there are just your budgeted numbers that you're
yeah, this is kind of planned, kind of what we, based on our historicals, what we think we can do next year.
Okay. And then again, talking about the
oh, there we go. Purchase. There we go. Now we have the right number. 18 million to 23 and change. So we're about 24. So yeah, about 5 million in additional value that we've gained there.
Okay. Forecasted for 24 million next year, and yeah, $5 million in gain in value. What'd you do to get those increases in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just all, we have it all up there, but just doing all the stuff that a good owner will do, right? Deferred maintenance, all the basic stuff that needs to make the property look good, carpentry, gutters, roofs. We had to do a retainage wall in one building because they hadn't completed it yet, some electrical stuff. HVAC, gates, plumbing. Funny enough, on the plumbing issue is they put a whole new parking lot, asphalt parking lot. However, they decided to not mark where all the cleanouts are. So they covered up all the cleanouts, and we had a heck of a time trying to figure out where all the cleanouts were, because we had to dig, and we had some plumbing issues to dig and fix those, and that was a big project. But thankfully, knock on wood, we don't have any more of those issues, because that's the biggest thing you want to avoid, right? Is you don't want at 8 o'clock at night get a call and say, hey, water's coming up through my toilet or through my sink or through my tub, that's the worst. That's the worst call you can ever get. So we talked about the exterior paint. We did that on the entire building or entire complex. Did windows in 4 buildings. We did new signage, some exterior lighting, security cameras, just to make all the parking lots pretty much lit up like a baseball stadium. We updated the leasing office a little bit. We added some missing amenities. This property had all these courtyards that were really nice, and all the units look up down on these courtyards. So we added gazebos, we added grills, we did the artificial turf, we added pet parks, playground, things like that.
So what I remember was there was nothing in these courtyards, not even grass to look down on.
It was a lot of dirt. Yeah. And then here we added a package locker by the office, and we consolidated all the mailboxes at the mail center. So a lot of just adding things that will make the community more vibrant, more, someplace that someone would want to live.
Okay. All right. So what's changed and where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier. A lot has changed, right? So Melissa and I both are quote unquote retired, at least from the JOB, from our W-2 jobs. So Melissa was a nurse. Prior to that, she was IT auditor in KPMG, and we both, work from home. She has an office on the opposite side of our front door, and I have an office over here, and we kind of talk across the hallway. So really, what Lifestyles has shown me is that I also can do it too, right? So when I came in, Scott was here already doing it for about 10 years. And so I was like, wow. Because I looked up to Scott and those like him, was like, there's no way I can do that, right? There's no way. And now, I consider Scott, of course he has more experience than me, but I can consider him a peer, and we talk about the same kind of problems and issues that we have, and we hash them out and figure it out.
But in the meeting before we got here tonight, I learned what a virtual assistant is and how to use one. So that's where we exchange ideas.
And really the legacy that we created for our family is really what kind of hits home, especially now that I have a 2-year-old. The fact that I can go pick her up at, after school if I have the time, to do that, take her to swim class at 4:00 in the afternoon. I couldn't have not done that if I was still in my prior job, right? So those are the moments is, yes, the financial success is great and all, but what to me makes the most impact is the time. The time to be able to spend with my family. I can cook her lunch if she's sick from home, or she's sick from school and she has to stay home, which was an actual example, a few days ago. I could take care of her and spend time with her and spend time with Melissa and go on vacations without having to ask my boss, hey, can I take a vacation 6 months from now? Yeah, I don't have to do that, right?
Yeah, I remember the whole thing we say about it's about living the lifestyle. I used to think that meant going on vacation all the time and all that, but when I look back, my youngest just graduated college in June. And I've been here long enough that I remember I was coaching Little League and soccer teams when I started, and that's probably the part that I cherish the most, is that buyback and that part of the lifestyle, for sure. So, okay, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, short term, continue to evaluate and acquire some multifamily deals here in Texas that make sense. Potentially look at selling a few of the ones we currently own. Always trying to optimize our operations and try to make our team better. So that's kind of my job day to day. Is I do a lot of like coaching calls and things like that, meeting with our managers and leasing and maintenance teams to make sure everything is operating correctly. And so yeah, that's kind of short term.
And then this particular property, we're now 5+ years into it. We're starting to get some interest rate corrections. The market's really pepping up.
Yeah.
What do you think you're going to do with this property?
Yeah, so we really put a big kind of marker out there for the team at this property to get the property ready for a sale probably in the next year to year and a half, 2 years, around that time. So I think we'll see a little bit better environment. Hopefully things will help us in about 20-ish days. We'll see what happens there. And then some interest rate cuts and things like that will help out. And hopefully we'll get a good sale and return a bunch of money to our passives.
All right. All right, and then finally, I guess on this slide, Curtis was your main mentor, I think, on this one when you bought it.
Yep.
And I think, came in right after you bought this thing. Lifestyles Realty was involved in this. They had a broker involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. And then we've got a list of vendors inside the program. I know somebody asked earlier if they had used any on the single family, and in this case, the answer is yes.
Yeah, there's quite a few that we used. The vendors that we use, we've now used them for. Especially the Trowbridge Law Group here, we've used them for close to 10 deals between myself and a prior partner. Marcus Millichap Capital, this is now going to be my 7th or 8th transaction with them. So once you have your team built, you stay loyal, right? So they know how you operate, what you need. So it's a good relationship.
All right, questions? Yes.
That's you right here. Yeah.
Yes. He's bringing the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. This was really great. So we're just learning. This is our first time here, actually. So the returns for like the 6.5%, that's from the cash flow from the property now. So what are the returns that y'all usually project for once you sell? And like what the limited partners, like what do y'all usually project for returns all in or at that time?
Yeah, so if we're looking at kind of that, let's just say we sold it for $24 million. Of course, there's going to be some costs involved from the sale and everything. So if I'm doing that quick math, 24 minus 18, that's 6. And then you have, let's say, another 500 to 600. Let's just use 500. So you end up with 5.5 as the total available to distribute back. And so we raised, what did we raise? 6.6, if my memory serves. So whatever that percentage, right? Say 5 million out of 6, so pretty healthy.
Keep in mind at the 5-year mark where we are now, so far they've gotten average a little better than 5% per year. So they've gotten 25% of their money back in just cash on cash. And they've had one supplemental refi that you had on this thing. What was the $1.5 million you distributed?
Just cash flow.
That was all cash flow. So we never did a supplemental on this?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought we did. Okay, so it's all going to come on the back end. So you'd have to go back and calculate that internal rate of return if you wanted to do that. But, with everything that's gone on, I would say on this one, probably somewhere in the high teens is where it's going to end up.
So let's just say on the back end, say you get another 70%. Let's just use 65%. And then you add on the 1.5, what is that? Let's just say it's, close to 80%, 85% total. Let's just say you invested $100,000. Now you're getting from the original cash flow, you get your original $100,000 back plus another, say 80, let's say. So, yeah.
No one over here.
And then this is all you just sitting at home and doing nothing.
Just a couple specific questions. You said your numbers are based on historicals. Obviously, the property was almost totaled out, right? So you're talking about your year to year. What is your lease ratio? I mean, 85%, 90%? What are you basing those numbers on for occupancy?
So we're talking about basing next year's numbers. So our pro forma for next year is based on our historical, of course, what we're doing now.
Since you've had the property.
And since we've had the property and kind of what we think we'll do next year, yeah.
And at 80%, 85, 90% occupancy?
So we're currently, literally today, I think 88 or 89% occupancy. So we are trying to stay at about 93. That's kind of our
So 93
goal.
is your number. Okay, so and then do you have seasonal churn or do you have staggered leases or?
So on this property, it's relatively even throughout the year. And of course, we have a system that manages our expirations, so we don't have a bunch of people turn over.
Right, so you're not doing
a single month. Yeah.
So you don't have a bunch of 6 and 12-month leases. You do have 8s, 9s, so on forth in order to fill in the gaps.
Primarily, we have 12-month leases, 11 or 12-month leases. But because this property leases throughout the year, it kind of naturally, staggers out.
Yeah, so in this case, when we have kind of what I'll call conventional deals in a city like this, 12-month lease is what we base on. Do you have some 13s? Do you have some 6s? Yeah, they get in there somewhere, but that's not really the rule of thumb. And you have pretty consistent expirations throughout the year. I will tell you that most people don't want to move between Thanksgiving and December, so there's a fall off in that December-January timeframe.
Yeah, that's that seasonal churn I was asking about.
Yeah. Now, where it really gets seasonal is I also own in Ohio, and nobody wants to move while there's snow on the ground. So we have a much more of a seasonal thing that I think of. We also have some stuff that would be in like Nacogdoches or in College Station, and so you get a little bit of a student churn cycle with those as well, but that's not necessarily the case in Houston.
And do you have a percentage cap on month to month?
Yes, it's all based, we use the AI system that manages all that for us, but yes, so we do have that month-to-month cap just based on lease expiration limits.
Okay,
So-
appreciate it.
It's usually more one-off, not a normal deal where somebody expires and they say, well, I want to extend for another 3 months or something before they move out. Maybe they've got a work thing going on or something like that.
Their house isn't ready yet.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and on 240 units, it's not as much of a concern as my 31 unit, right? Because if I have 5 units expiring in 1 month, that's 15% of my property, or 18% of my property if I'm doing the math correctly. Whereas if I have 5, that's barely anything,
Yeah.
right? So on a larger property, you have to manage it, but it's not as critical.
What else? Up front?
Over the 10 years you've been here, which you started in 2015, and now it's coming on 2025, what do you feel like was your key things that allowed you to scale to the volume of units that you have now? Like your key strategies to getting where you are now?
That's a good question, actually. I really think it's just keeping your head down and not getting too distracted with everything that's been going on. If you keep a pretty solid kind of eyes forward approach and not try to be distracted on all sides of, oh, let's go do a little Bitcoin, go do a little bit of this or that or whatever. I'm solely focused on multifamily, right? And so this is what I'm doing every day. And so I'm focused on that and not try to be all distracted. I think that's really the key.
I'll say too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think about Alan's course and when I think about others that are around us, for the most part, it's a pretty methodical steps forward. I mean, your first deal, how long did you and Chris have that deal before you moved on?
2.5 years.
Yeah. And then after he got past that and he had his systems in place and he knew how he was analyzing and how he was thinking, it's been a pretty systematic, 1 deal a year, maybe 2 deals a year. Nothing too crazy, but just kind of methodical.
It's the hare and tortoise game, right? So one step at a time. You're not going to jump in and leap in and do this. I don't advise it because we've had to learn along the way of, hey, I did something wrong. Hey, Scott, oh, crap. Can you help me? Or Randa, can you help me fix this one thing? And I still call Randa, right?
And I'll tell you,
I still will always call Randa.
when you get to his size too, at some point, you can't do it all yourself and you have to start building staff. So, you're building your team and it's not overnight, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, still remember staying up till 11 p.m., looking at Zillow leads or Facebook leads and sending those to my property manager. Hey, can you follow up on this tomorrow? Follow up on, and we were just joking because she's still with me, my very first property manager. She's now our regional manager, but I still joke with her. It's like, do you remember the times when I would stay up at 11 o'clock? Because this was when I was still working a full-time job, right? So when did I have time to work on property? It was 10 o'clock at night. So I would send her stuff, and you can't do that. I can't be doing that anymore. I got too many other things to worry about, so you have to put the layers in place. But that takes time. It's one thing at a time. If you're relatively new, don't look at this and look at my path and Scott's path and get too, overwhelmed because I was in your shoes before too, right? It's just one thing as it goes. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you, I don't know if you would agree, but I didn't plan to get where I got. I actually put a level where I wanted to get to, and then I got there and I went, well, now what do I do? I guess I'll go again. That's all I know how to do now.
Yeah, Melissa makes fun of me too. It's just like, well, this was my thing, and then you kind of, took it and went way further than I thought we were going to do it. So anyway, but she's on board now. So
What else? Anything online? Nope. All right. Well, with that, one more.
We are passives in this deal with you. We are passives in this deal with you and a couple of others of your deals, and we're very grateful for what you do.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you. You didn't have to say that. I didn't plant them here, by the way.
And also point out, I really like the emails you send out. They're really detailed and give us a lot of information. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, so what he's referring to is we have a report structure that your lead should be sending out on a monthly basis. So it's all the monthly activity that's going on, occupancy, turnover, collections, all that sort of stuff, financials basically that go with the property, key statistics.
So that was a great presentation. Can you share a little bit about your community events that you guys do with the residents at the property? I think that's a great thing to highlight.
Only because you asked, Jen. So we do at all of our properties a monthly resident event. It kind of varies throughout the year, but we sometimes in the summer we'll do a Cinco de Mayo event. Our whole team will be grilling on a Blackstone out there and give out free food, and we'll do ice cream trucks and snow cones. We'll do a back to school event, which we recently did. We'll do a Halloween party. We'll do like a Halloween door decorating contest. So just stuff to engage with the residents, because a lot of other properties don't do that, and residents want to feel part of a community, right? They live in an apartment with hundreds of other people. Sometimes they're all on top of each other, so you have to have that resident relation with them and make sure they feel comfortable and happy where they live.
And really, if you lock that down, it helps with that turnover number that we were talking about before.
Yeah, people don't want to move. They only move if you give them a good enough reason to, right?
Okay, with that, big thank you for Alan.